gather around for I've unearthed a tale that'll make every hair stand on end. Tonight we delve deep into a Halloween night where a simple dare turned into a nightmarish ordeal. Lean in, listen close, and let's venture together into the darkness of one unforgettable Halloween night. Ready? Let's begin.
I hate Halloween. Seriously, if there was one so-called holiday I could do without, it would be there. Let me explain before I get ahead of myself. When I was a kid, Halloween was the shit. I mean, seriously, what was there not to love? Dressing up in ridiculous costumes? Check. An annual sugar-induced coma? Hell yeah. Spending hours creating fake tombstones out of cardboard and spray paint. My aesthetic. But by the time I hit 15, Halloween took a one-way trip down Shitsville Lane for me. And let me tell you, it was the last Halloween I ever celebrated. It started innocently enough. I was too old for trick-or-treating, but too young to legally drink at some Halloween frat party. So, naturally, my dumbass friends and I were lounging around, tossing out ideas about how we might spend the spooky holiday. That's when Ben, one of my best friends, leaning back in his chair with that all-knowing smirk, said, "You know, there's that old farmhouse on the outskirts of town, the one they say is haunted. Why not make this Halloween memorable?" Jasmine rolled her eyes. "That old legend? Seriously, Ben." Ben, leaning forward for dramatic effect, replied, "Come on, it'll be a blast, a real adventure." I couldn't resist chiming in, "Well, if there are ghosts, they'll probably find your sense of fashion more horrifying than we find them." Danny chuckled. "Haunted or not, it sounds like a hell of a story for school on Monday." And so, the decision was made. We planned to visit the local haunted farmhouse. You know the kind. Every town has one. Abandoned, decrepit, and begging to be explored by overly confident teenagers with no concept of mortality. As we approached the farmhouse, Ben, decked out in a stupidly elaborate zombie costume, quipped, "Bet the real horrors in there are just rats and mold." "Or your mom," I retorted, my tone dripping with sarcasm. "Seriously, Ben, why don't you ask her? I heard she's been haunting men's dreams since the 90s. Ben just flipped me off, but I could see the grin hidden beneath his poorly applied zombie makeup. It was our way, a constant back and forth, always trying to outdo each other. The quips ended with a quickness as the unease set in, as soon as we set foot inside that godforsaken house. Dust swirled around us, like the remnants of souls lost. The floors creaked in protest, and a stale scent permeated the air. There was a silence, the kind that weighs on your chest, pressing down, making every breath feel like a chore. And then, as if the universe wanted to amp up the creep factor, Ben, ever the curious one, stumbled upon something partially covered by a worn-out rug. Pulling it aside revealed an old Ouija board right in the center of the main room. Its polished wood and gleaming letters contrasted sharply with the thick layer of dust and decay that blanketed everything else in that house. It was as though it had been placed there, not so long ago, waiting for someone, or something. Ben's eyes lit up like a kid who found the golden ticket. "Holy shit, guys, look at this. I've always wanted to try one of these out." Danny, peering over Ben's shoulder, raised an eyebrow. "Dude, that thing looks way too new to be here. It's like someone's been using it." Katie, a horror aficionado among us, chimed in. "You know, those things are said to be portals, right? Portals to where spirits and, sometimes, not-so-friendly entities reside?" Ignoring her, Ben excitedly asked, "Who's up for a round of spirit chat roulette?" I tried to mask my unease and shrugged my shoulders. And why not? It's not like we came here for a casual chat with the local ghost. Oh, wait. We did. Jasmine, the only sensible one among us, immediately shook her head. Hell no. I've seen enough horror movies to know this is where shit goes sideways. I'm not trying to let some bullshit demon possess me. But as teenagers do, we overruled Jasmine's protests with our collective stupidity. Danny was the first to place his fingers on the planchette. Anyone here? He asked, clearly mocking the whole thing. But the planchette shot to yes. Despite my sarcasm and bravado, a cold shiver ran down my spine. Fantastic! We've probably just summoned Casper's evil twin. Yeah, go ahead, judge me. I blame my parents for the cultural references. But I couldn't have been more wrong. From the shadows, a creature emerged. Lanky, tall, with elongated fingers. It was otherworldly and had a clear disdain for our little gathering. Who the hell invited Slender Man's emo cousin? I blurted out, as much to break my own rising panic as to inject some humor into the situation. For a moment, the room was engulfed in an eerie silence. The creature's eyes, or where its eyes should have been, seemed to fixate on the Ouija board. Its long fingers twitched, as if yearning to touch the very thing that might have summoned it. Ben, ever the brave one, stepped forward. Did we bring you here? He asked, his voice trembling. The creature's head snapped towards him, its posture now even more menacing. In a swift motion, the creature lunged at us, swift and furious. Thanks to my reflexes, honed by years of dodging responsibilities, I managed to dodge its grasp, picking up a piece of broken wood from the ground. Swinging wildly, I tried to keep the creature at bay. My friends? They scattered like a bunch of bitches. Ben's realistic zombie costume became a hindrance, tangling in his feet. Served him right. As we scattered, the creature's long fingers extended, reaching for any of us they could grasp. Jasmine, gasping in terror, barely escaped its touch by darting behind an old wardrobe, but not without the creature tearing a chunk from her shirt, leaving a set of scratch marks on her back. Danny, usually the most daring among us, was cornered. Using his belt, he momentarily blinded the creature, wrapping it around its head, buying just enough time to scramble away with a deep gash in his leg. The creature's claws were sharp and it wasn't playing around. Amidst the chaos, I lost track of Katie. I yelled, "Katie!" But there was no answer. Just as hope began to wane, I saw her, cornered by a broken window, the creature looming over her. The moonlight cast a surreal glow, and her terrified eyes met mine. It was a moment frozen in time. She screamed, trying to fend off the creature with a shard of broken glass. But it was futile. The creature seized her, its shadowy form enveloping her, and with a bone-chilling scream from Katie, they both seemed to meld into the very shadows of the room. The rest of us, driven by pure adrenaline, found a weak spot in the farmhouse's old structure, breaking through and pouring out into the night air. After what felt like an eternity, we managed to escape the farmhouse, leaving behind the Ouija board, the lingering terror in that damned house, and Katie was gone, swallowed by the darkness we'd so foolishly invited. Our desperate gasps for breath felt deafening in the chilly night air once we had put some distance between us and the farmhouse. The night's horrors echoed in our minds, making every shadow seem threatening. Jasmine's phone was the only one with a shred of battery life left. We called 911, our voices shaky, explaining that our friend Katie was missing. When the police arrived, they seemed skeptical of our wild tales of a shadowy creature. Their gazes landed on our injuries, their suspicion evident. Katie's parents were devastated. The farmhouse became a hub of activity, with local law enforcement combing every inch, looking for clues or signs of Katie. Search parties were organized, and the community came together, hoping against hope that Katie would be found. News spread fast, and our little town was abuzz with theories. Some believed our story, while others whispered that we had done something to Katie, that it was a prank gone wrong, or worse, a premeditated act. Days turned into weeks, and still, no sign of Katie. The official stance of the police was that Katie had run away. They cited the absence of any physical evidence of foul play in the farmhouse and the fact that none of us could provide a consistent or coherent description of the creature. It didn't help that the Ouija board, our one tangible link to the events of that night, had mysteriously vanished from the farmhouse. We were interviewed multiple times, each session becoming more aggressive. At one point, all of us were considered suspects in Katie's disappearance. Our families hired lawyers. The town was divided, and trust between us, friends, was strained. The farmhouse, now more notorious than ever, was eventually demolished. Some said it was to erase the painful memories, while others whispered that it was done to bury deeper secrets. Grass and weeds took over, but no child or adult dared venture close, fearing the darkness that once lurked there. Years have gone by, and while life moved on, the shadow of that Halloween night loomed large over our lives. Every anniversary of her disappearance, a candlelight vigil is held in Katie's memory. We attend, our faces older, our eyes haunted. The unsaid words, the guilt, and the longing for answers hang heavy in the air. But deep down, we all knew that some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed. It's been over a decade since that night. A night we wished we could forget, but were forever reminded of by the emptiness left in Katie's absence. Jasmine moved to another state, pursuing a career in counseling, probably to find healing by helping others. Danny took a more pragmatic approach, becoming a detective, hoping to find answers in other cases that he couldn't find for Katie. I found solace in writing, penning horror tales, a way to cope, to give my nightmares form, to control them. Ben, however, went down a very different path. The fun-loving, carefree teen who used to crack jokes was replaced with a somber adult with a voracious appetite for the supernatural. He traveled extensively, met with occultists, studied ancient rituals, and became almost reclusive. To most of us, it seemed like he was trying to find a way to bring Katie back, or at the very least find a reason, a hint, a sign, something to explain the unexplainable. At the most recent annual vigil for Katie last week, as we all stood with our candles, faces reflecting the decade of pain and longing, Ben approached Deuce, his demeanor serious. "I found a way, Alex. A ritual. It's dangerous, and we're going to have to go back, but it might bring her back." Silence enveloped our small group, broken only by the flickering of candles. Jasmine, who had flown in for the vigil, looked skeptical, her professional instincts cautioning her. Danny's analytical eyes scanned Ben, searching for a hint of deceit. I simply stared, torn between hope and fear. Finally, feeling the weight of the lost years, the guilt, and the need for closure, I nodded. My need to get back at that bastard that had taken our friend and had altered years of our lives since that night. Fuck Skinny, I'm in. We owe it to her. Let's get Katie back.
Boogey-fans, that wraps up tonight's chilling tale of a Halloween game. Gone terribly wrong. Did it send shivers down your spine? Did it make you think twice about your next Ouija board adventure? If so, don't let this story fade into the shadows. Smash that like button, share this haunting tale with your bravest friends, and if I've earned it, hit that subscribe button for more stories that'll make you check under your bed at night.